lost your audio. You might have muted. Yep, that's better.
Back.
Sorry, I had to the studio.
Oh, nice.
Can you see that?
Yeah, so that
I have
is
to
a
turn my
PoE?
laptop.
Yeah, it looks like a PoE.
Yeah, it's a PoE coil based off of the design of Erica and Daniel Nunez of First Stop Energies. And it's all color coordinated, so you can see the channels here. Channel A is red in, out is black. Channel B is yellow and green. And that's going to like a custom circuit that I have with a little rectifier and a DC motor. And it's also got a couple of 3 LED lights. So it's powering a load while it's doing this. It's doing actual work.
Right.
That's awesome.
And
I see you got a metal ball.
Here,
that's amazing.
Yeah, at 3 kilohertz, I was getting about 3.5 volts on the input, 0.15 amps on the input, and on the output, I was getting 6.1 volts and 0.2 amps on the output. That's 113% gain.
There you go.
Right? I mean, it's tiny increments. It's you know, like, but it's a proof of concept that this stuff works.
Yeah, over unity is fact.
Right, and nature does it all the time. So to discredit that is kind of ridiculous. But I have the neodymium sphere set up. I'm going to show you the low end frequency.
Yeah, I want to see it spin. Is it going to spin or?
Yeah, it's going to spin like not. Here we go. Oh, look at that. We're at 4 hertz right now. I haven't even touched it. And again, I forget his name, but like you said, it could be running and running and running, and it won't get hot.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that?
We can't see it. Try it again. Oh yeah, see. Right. Yeah, so you got a spinning field there. Yep.
Yeah, so that's 4 hertz, and if I take out my magnetic pull detector, we can see if we can detect a pull, but I wasn't able to detect one except that very high gain.
Yeah, that's the 0 point. It's just following the field going in a circle.
Right.
If you put more voltage and more current, that ball should be spinning around and around and around.
Right. Yeah, the correct frequency and input.
Yeah.
Here's 5 hertz. It's going a little bit faster.
Yeah. Yeah, if you speed it up even faster, it should go all the way around.
Right. Yeah. See, it wants to synchronize. See, it's wanting to synchronize with the field, but I haven't achieved it quite yet.
Now, I've seen somebody do a similar experiment with that. Hold the magnetic ball in a cup about 2 feet away, and it's still spinning.
When you capture the magnetic moment, you've reached magnetic synchronicity, and you can do that. You can get it synchronized with the vortex field, and then take it outside like 15 feet, and you'll still affect it.
And it will still affect it, yeah.
Yep, and you can even power down the coil, and you can see it still affecting it for a little bit of time. Because, you know, the coil, it kind of stores energy. That's what it seems like.
Cool.
And now let's bust out the tone generator. We got a tone generator here. I'm going to put it on 800. Oh, that's a little bit too fast. Yeah, baby.
It almost flew off the table.
Yeah. Every step of the way, this coil has surprised me.
Testing 1 2.
And we're getting 3.6 volts on the output. Let's take a look at the input.
Try slowing down the pulse rate.
2.3 volts on the input. Can you see that?
Take off the light on it.
Oh, take off the light?
Yeah, take off the light. Yeah, now we can see it.
2.350 on the input. That's voltage.
Yeah.
And you got 3.638 on the output.
Yep, there you go.
Yep. And it's powering a load. And I wanted to make sure it's, you know, I wanted to see how it would affect the DC and the AC at the same time. So, you know, I kind of split the circuit a little bit, but it didn't seem to affect it at all.
That's awesome, man.
You
did, right? So you can power
this is epic work,
and power a light.
Yeah.
I like the duct tape.
Yeah, but I did
Yep.
notice that without the capacitor, it kind of stops and you have to re-jump it, so the signal's kind of
Yeah.
jumpy.
Yeah, you have to give it some capacitance. It doesn't have enough capacitance in the coil to drive it. So yeah, a capacitor definitely will help.
It's incredible. Like this coil, and it wasn't that hard to do. You know, it took some time, but I think almost any engineer could whip up one of these.
Yeah.
Is that the rodent coil?
It's
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
PoE
it's
I'm gonna be
similar to
putting-
the rodent coil.
Yeah, it's
By the
based
new
on
guy.
Rodin's math, but it's
So I'm going to be putting out a comprehensive text guide this weekend, and then a
Yeah, but
demo
doesn't-
video to go along with it.
That's
isn't
awesome.
Daniel Nunes' work based on the Rodin coil?
Yes. So
Yeah, okay.
Daniel and Erica Nunes of First Stop Energies was they pretty much perfected this coil, and they were open sourcing it. But their mistake was they tried to patent it, and ever since then they kind of went
Yeah.
off the circuit. I haven't heard
Yeah.
from them.
Right?
I
He
haven't
deleted all their videos
been able to
and
find any
stuff.
information on them.
Yeah, like literally
Yeah, all their
all of
videos
their
were taken
videos
down off of
got taken
YouTube,
down.
and I
Yeah.
know they were taken down off of YouTube.
The patent means that it's not open source. If it's got patent, it's not open source.
Well, they were.
I
No,
thought
they
I heard-
patented a version of it, but they were showing people how to set this up.
Yep.
They were selling kits, is what they were doing.
Yeah.
But they had a version of this coil that was patented. You can go online; it's the patent's still pending. It's not
Yeah.
called the
Didn't
PoE
somebody-
coil. I can send you the link, but
Yeah,
it's got some weird name, but it's basically the same design.
Didn't somebody take them to court, like to
Yeah,
shut
they're
them down? Personal, like,
Yeah, I
you know what
wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't
Yeah,
doubt it.
yeah.
that's
That
what they
usually
do.
happens when you find something, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they'll go after you financially. They'll tie you up
Yep.
in court, and they'll basically try to bankrupt you. Is what they're going to do.
Right.
That's
And
part
that's
of-
why I'm not interested in
that-
making money. I just want to study it. I just want to
gotta
study the
open
science
source.
and maybe have people
Yeah.
replicate this.
100%.
I'm so broke,
Good
ain't
on
got
you,
the nickels
Ben.
to rub together.
Open
So let them
source.
come after me. I don't care.
So I'm gonna run this
Haven't
coil a
got a
little
pot
bit,
to
and then
piss.
we're gonna do it temperature test. If that's
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes,
do
please.
that.
I'll highlight you
Yeah,
on
I want to see what's
screen.
happening in the
This
middle of that
is
coil.
amazing stuff. I'm stoked. Like I've been trying
Even
to
if
find
it's a few
anything
degrees,
on
that shows
Bermuda.
up because you're only
Well,
because you're only using like 2.3 volts, right? You're not using much voltage, so you might get
Yeah.
a degree or two changing. But if you got it up over 25 volts going in, you might see some more dramatic temperature changes, right?
yeah,
So
I'd like
try to step it up.
pump
Don't be afraid.
Well, the
Yeah,
thing is
don't
with
be
the
afraid.
stereo receiver, it's an old stereo receiver, so I think it's shutting off because the energy coming back in is just too much for it. Like it's multiplying the energy
It's
going
like a-
and then coming back in, shutting it down if I go too high on the gain.
Yeah, it's feeding back. It's a feedback.
You need
It's
to
like a
use
feedback
resistors.
loop.
Yeah, you need to use resistors on your feedback, like your ground from your PoE back
Okay.
to your stereo. If you use resistors, those resistors are going to heat up, but you'll be able to sustain your output.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I could try that for the next version of the system.
Make sure you keep those resistors cold because they could melt.
Heat.
Yeah,
Yep.
What-
but it
what
depends how
ohms are
much
we
power
talking
he's putting
about?
through it, right? Like he's not putting too much. Like an amp's not. It's not going to melt. Well,
No,
then again,
I'm saying if he's going in higher potentials, like if he's hitting
Right.
like
Yeah.
And are we
25
looking at
volts or
the
that's
whatever.
what I mean. You never know, right? You get that surge from an output on a PoE, it could melt some shit. You never know.
Yeah.
If you're pulsing, you can control
Right.
heat with your pulse rate.
Yeah, to a point. Yeah, it all depends on the
Low
what do
frequency.
you call it? The resistance
frequency.
in the coil. Have you tested how many ohms resistance that coil is?
So actually I haven't
It
looked at the resistance yet.
Looking
But,
at it,
it's going to
100
be
ohms.
less efficient than the Nunes design, specifically because I screwed up the bundle. When you're bundling the wire, you want it to be uniform. And unfortunately, I didn't tighten it enough when I was twisting the wires together. So there's a couple of spaces where the wires kind of like jump up a little bit and aren't packed together. So that I suspect is affecting the system in some way.
100%. Bob
when
Greenier states with like the exact same thing with his windings as Keshi and the Magrav, all of them, that you have to have that same consistency throughout in the spin to maintain the field unity of the geometrics of it.
Yeah,
right.
That field unity is because of the skin effect. Each additional line actually multiplies the one after it. That's why you have to get it really tight.
Right. So they have to be like compacted.
Yeah.
No, that all makes sense because you're taking two counter-rotating magnetic fields and you're compressing them on top of each other in such a way that you create that singularity.
Yeah, and you have to follow it to their uniform path. Otherwise, it doesn't quite work well.
Right. And there's specifically a more advanced version of the PoE coil before they went silent. And what they did was basically they just made the openings on the coil frame very thin, V-shaped, so that you can only fit one wire at a time, but you're fitting them on top of each other so they're perfectly symmetrically in a line, right? And that seemed to, they claimed that version was so advanced,
cancel out,
right, that it didn't produce any O3, which is a common
problem. It cancels out. You get identical signals cancel each other.
Right, exactly.
You have to have different flow rates of current as well.
And I'm also seeing that because you don't really get to know and understand these systems until you work with them. Theory can only bring you so far. But I'm starting to see that the rodent coil has multiple resonant frequencies. There's one on the lower end and one on the higher end. And on the lower end, it has a strong electromagnetic field, and on the higher end, it seems to produce tiny amounts of over-unity, at least in my system.
Yeah, start playing with higher voltages.
I do have because they do recommend a HV capacitor. I'm not sure if my coil.
Yeah, high voltage.
But yeah, it's supposed to output high voltage, and it does this. The secret to their design is the method that they use is an open circuit system.
Yeah.
Where
open loop.
Yeah, an open loop, and I guess it leaves room for it to resonate more in the cavity.
Yeah. Well, the open part is when the transistor's gate is open. That's the open part of the pulse. So you have a pulse. There's an on and an off. During the off portion of this loop is the portion they're calling the open part.
Right.
So it's off.
So is it not
portion is when the flyback occurs.
Because it is being closed by the load.
When you close the gate, you create a load. The coil is the load. Yeah, when you close the gate, you're connecting the other end of the battery to the coil.
Mike, this is the
difference. You're charging it.
You're talking conventional systems, though. The PoE and systems that me and
it's a pulse. It's a pulse system, right? That you're using here.
Yeah, I'm pulsing it with AC.
So there's an on and an off. During the off, the coil inverts its polarity.
Understood, but they're dynamic systems. They're not just one coil, one transistor. Do you know what I mean? They work as
they're the bifilar. I know one direction, one back the other. I get back the other way. I get you.
So you're saying
you phrase that again, BeneFactor? Two fields in and how do you just said the specified you described
two counter-rotating magnetic fields compressed.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
Two counter-rotating magnetic fields. That's exactly right.
That's the pinch.
Right, and it's the secret is when you combine the resonance with the geometry, and that's if you look at the Tesla coil, he had the resonance right on that coil to maximize the voltage, but he wasn't choosing the path of least resistance for his coils. Absolutely. So when you combine the two, I believe you can achieve over unity.
I think
with a third coil, maybe.
I think Tesla was using a path of least resistance, but he kept it hidden from the public.
Yeah, that's patents, very true.
If you look at his patents, they were inverted and they were upside down. So
that's
really,
right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like his Tesla coil is actually a receiver.
Wow.
You reverse it, right? If you use the secondary as a primary, you can actually step down the power and
That's right.
Very interesting. Tesla.
Yeah, and when you see, because that explains why he used high voltage when it went to the second coil, because it's in harmonic resonance with the first Tesla coil. It's going to harmonically resonate at the same frequency and the same voltage. So the primary coil, which is usually what triggers the secondary, he now made that into the step-down transformer. So
absolutely, and then there's a spark gap in there for regulating the frequency.
Right.
Go grab my thermometer.
Yeah.
He made the secondary was a step down?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, when you reverse it.
That's hard to believe.
No, not at all. It's a transformer, Mike. It's
just wait, he was stepping down. What was he stepping down? Super high voltage?
Yeah. So you got you have to listen. You got the first Tesla coil. That's your transmitter. Okay.
Yeah, no, I get it now. You're stepping down super high voltage into the secondary.
Right. Okay. So my question to you is this: what happens when you step down from a high voltage to a low voltage?
You gain amps. You convert voltage to amps.
Exactly.
You don't lose anything. You convert everything. Nothing is lost.
That's right. Now you're creating horsepower. Now you're creating horsepower. Now you're creating horsepower with the second coil. It's not physically connected to the first coil. So therefore there's no draw off the first coil. It's just doing its thing. Right.
So what you're saying now is actually one of the secrets to the Wardenclyffe Tower. Now think about that, because radio frequencies are only voltage. There's no current. So if you could literally,
that all depends on the duty cycle of the radio frequency.
If you could collect the radio frequency on the secondary of a Tesla coil and step it down through the primary, just like Mike was describing, you now have a free energy system through the radio.
There you go. Well, way over unity.
Right. Gerald, by the way, radio frequencies don't have much current because their duty cycle is very narrow.
They don't need it. You just need to collect that.
Right, they don't need it. They just need the pulses for the sound wave.
Yeah, and when you send it to the ground, you literally collect it as it's flowing through to the ground.
But that doesn't mean you can't send radio signals with a wider duty cycle and transmit amps.
Yeah, true.
You don't need to. You don't need to, because as soon as you're stepping it down, that's where your gains happen.
True. Yeah. If you're collecting high frequency, high voltage radio signals and stepping it down to a low voltage, then you got to
because that spark gap is what regulates the frequency, right?
Exactly, Mike.
Yeah, the ohms is doing something real crazy. Look at that. I put it on the ohm setting.
You could have an intermittent short, or I don't know if your
device is on. If your device is on, shut it off. Just do it with a meter. Yeah, shut your coil off.
The only way to measure the resistance of the coil BeneFactor is you have to have it disconnected from the circuit.
Yeah,
that's right.
Okay, there we go.
Disconnect okay, so you got what is 3.7.
At least one end has to be disconnected from the circuit. Then you can measure.
I'm a layman still, so.
It's 3.7 ohms, right?
Yeah, 3.7.
That's low.
All learning live.
What is that? 18 gauge or 15 gauge?
So
that's good.
No, you have I love having this. I love having you guys here to help me and explain some of the things that I'm seeing.
So 3.7 ohms. 3.7 ohms. That means you have very little resistance in that coil. That's a good thing.
But enough to create a draw, enough to create flow.
That's cool.
Yeah, as long as you have a little bit of resistance in there or inductance, right? You can increase the inductance by actually putting a metal core in the middle of the donut, but you don't want that. You want to create that 0 point in the middle.
Right.
So even though that your ohms resistance of the coil is low, as long as you got a bit there, it's going to draw current into the system.
Oh, so you're saying there will be a little bit of resistance is necessary for that energy to transfer?
Sure. Yes. To a point.
To a point.
Now you could go.
Well, let's say you got 5 ohms and 100. And what is your voltage? 12 volts? 14?
It was
no,
like
he's
3 something on the output.
Yeah, he's using
what's your source? What are you feeding?
Oh, yeah, the source is a stereo receiver. It was reading, I think 1.6 going in.
Volts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you use a low voltage.